about the blessings contained within the walls. The blessings contained within the wall. And whether you know it or not, you yourself is a walled city. You got some blessings in you you don't even know you have. Amen. When we look here and talk about this great city called Jericho, one thing that becomes apparent that the battles that are waged against the children of God, they're never elementary tenets of our faith, but they always find themselves as being a stepping stone that's able to catapult us into another or a higher dimension of our calling God. In other words, what am I saying? I'm saying that every time you see something taking place in the life of a child of God that seems to be warring against him, it doesn't happen as an elementary thing. It's usually because something has staged and identified it. And it has something to do with your growth. It has something to do with your development or giving revelation about something that God intends for you to learn. Yes. In other words, that last fight you got in, if it was a good enough fight, you learned something about it. You usually learn something about yourself. And it's foolish to believe that we can reach levels of excellence without some severe challenge and some grave things happening in our lives. Everybody want to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Yes, everybody want to be rich, but nobody want to work for it. Everybody want friends, but they don't want to show themselves. Oh, you got it. It's amazing how we look for something that we're not willing to invest in to get it on the other side. And so as a child of God, we are promised and are even given access to so many blessings that are eternally designed and set for us, but they do not just come without a labor, without a toil, and without a sacrifice. And ain't it amazing, if you want your life to be better, you got to do something better. Oh, I dream of being slim. I would love to be back around 165 or 75 pounds. Would love to be there. I dream about it, and it can happen. But there's a wall in between that. That wall has to do with my ability and my desire to go and work and toil to achieve what I need. And it's amazing that everybody wants good stuff, but nobody is ready to make a good investment. You gonna pray with me a minute? Yes, you want a good church, but let me ask you, how good are you? How much is your work? You have, I was talking earlier to some of our leadership, and we were talking together, and just think about your role as a child of God. You're called, and I'm asking you, what do that really mean? When you say, I am a saint for what? When you say, I'm a child of God to do what? When you say that I stand on the promises of God, what are those promises you're standing on? And if God has called you to really be somebody, the question is, what's stopping you from being all that you can be? Yes, sir. And you see the commercial on TV every time. Be all that you can be in the Army. Well, I want you to know you're not in the USA military, but you are in the Christian Army. And the slogan still applies that you got to be all that you can be. And so, my beloved, when you look here, it is true that from the first time that God thought of us, He had prepared a course for each of us, both individually and us collectively. And that we have taken to order. And the only way that we're going to find rest for our souls is that we're going to have to do what He said. Oh, you can't get around it. You can't be over. It's just like trying to sneak into heaven. You can't sneak in there. No, and you got to recognize somebody said that the doors are so high you can't go over. So low you can't go under. And you must come at the end of the door. But the good news is that Jesus is the door. You can do all you can. You can't get saved by being at church. You saved to church ain't what saved you. But it's Jesus in the church that saves you. And beloved, I don't care how holy you look, looking good don't mean holiness. No, and you have to recognize when we look here, the things God has in store for us are found in the unfamiliar and many times the most likable places. Have you ever thought about where you get diamonds? You get diamonds in rough terrain. You ever pan for gold? Gold is in the muddy places. A pearl, you got to go down inside of the mouth of a nasty clam in order to get pearls out of that. And if you really want jewels for the kingdom, sometime God plants them in some ugly stuff. And that means if you really want to be strong, you got to carry some ugly burden. I wish I had somebody in here. Then let's look here today, because the blessings of Israel was found in the most ungodly but yet most familiar places. You know where they are, and the reason some of us don't get any better because we know where trouble is. But you can't run from trouble when there's blessings where trouble is. Yeah, sometimes you got to go into the enemy's camp in order to snatch back what belongs to you. Yes, I know that sounds contradictory. But everything you get from God is going to cost us something. Yeah, and so I thought here, as we look at this old Jericho city, here the blessings of Israel was found in this ungodly place. And you got to recognize Jericho was known for its advances in pleasure, its advances in sin, and it had immorality running over inside. As a matter of fact, the first person they encounter when the spies go over is a prostitute. Immorality is everywhere, and corruption is developing bit after bit after bit. And the text we view here gives us some real and some most unlikely hope, because our blessings are not always in the best, in the ideal places. Yes, if you really, some of you recognize you'll never get stronger by hanging around with your friend, but you will get stronger by being able to love your enemy. You'll never be strong by listening to folk who like you. But every now and then you got to take a word that's true, that comes in a harsh way for somebody who can't stand you. Yeah, and you got to recognize there are walls everywhere. Walls that have a way of blocking who we are. But let's look here for a moment, because when I look here at Israel, God here has given a plan to Joshua and say, I want you to be able to go over and I'm going to take down the walled city, because behind those walls are your blessings. Behind those walls is something that I need for my kingdom. And you got to recognize that many of us Satan here, I want to look here at these walls. So first of all, you got to recognize that walls, number one, are designed to block blessings. The only reason you got a wall in your life is because there's something that the devil don't want you to have. One of the chief task makers and builders is Satan himself, who loves to build walls to block and conceal the blessings of God from his people. Don't you know there are some people, no matter how you try to love them, you can't? It seems like every time you think you're getting along with them, Satan comes, sit down and whisper in your ear and say, but you can't let him off that easy. Have you ever thought about how he puts stuff in us trying to build walls to stop us? Yes, whenever you are blessed, Satan is victimized by your changing armies. You no longer fight for him, but now you're fighting against him. Don't you understand that he tries every way he can to build a wall to keep you from the things of God? According to the verse here, walls only come up to preempt God's people. Yes, sir. Look at verse number 1 of chapter 6. Because it said, now the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. You see, walls has a way of separating stuff, stopping you from getting to certain things. It has a way of stopping you from letting certain things in. You got to recognize everybody ain't against you, because some walls wasn't built by other folk. Some walls are built by you. I wish I had somebody in the room. Yeah, yes, sir. According here to the verse, you got to see here, though Israel was responsible for shutting up the places because of their presence, it was Jericho that sought to fortify against what was outside. So they decided that we'll build up a wall and we'll keep Israel out. Well, the good news is that when God has something for you, you're always on the offense. You can knock down whatever the devil set up. Do I have anybody? Don't you understand that some of the stuff you've taken in your life, you really didn't have to take? Some of the stuff that the devil put up trying to stop you from God's blessing, didn't you know that greater is he that was in you than he that was in the world? Didn't you know that you are a battering ram against the forces that are evil? And even though that things seem to be blocking you from the kingdom, you got to understand that the kingdom suffered violence, but the kingdom take it by force. You just don't get in easy. You got to knock the wall down. Yeah, and too many of us think that we can knock down walls by thumping it with our finger. You can't thump some stuff. You got to have some power to bring something down. The first thing Jesus said, the only way you're going to win and understand this thing is that you will have power after the Holy Ghost has come upon you. The only way you're going to knock down some stuff, you got to have the power of God on the inside. I wish I had somebody here. The only way you're going to tear down some stuff, you got to come out of yourself and get in the power of God's Spirit. Yeah, I want you to know we're fighting our earthly cause. The things we fight are not flesh and blood, but we got to know how to go in the closet to get our spiritual tools. If you really want to go to war, you got to go to prayer. If you really want to be able to kill an army that's out against you, you got to be able to take down the word, because the word is a sword. It is a shield. It has everything you need. If you want to knock down a wall, you got to get out of yourself. Stop looking at the sideline and start looking at what God has for us. What they had done. Sit down. Y'all making me nervous now.